Before I release 11 detained Nigerian soldiers, the issue of Nnamdi Kanu has been clearly concluded. My Biafrans, brothers and sisters, if justice can be ignored, then Africa has learned nothing. The Biafran struggle and the call for self-determination cannot be treated as crimes. I have listened to Biafrans and understand why Nnamdi Kanu's detention has become a symbol of injustice. Burkina Faso believes peace must be built on fairness and respect for human dignity. Africa cannot move forward while the voices of Biafrans are silenced.
Another good news for Biafrans as Ibrahim Traoré concluded Nnamdi Kanu's release with Tinubu before releasing detained Nigerian soldiers. Watch the full video to know the result, and don't forget to share where you are watching from in the comments section below.
My Biafran brothers and sisters, when I say that the issue of Nnamdi Kanu has been clearly concluded before the release of the 11 detained Nigerian soldiers, I do not speak lightly. I speak as an African leader who has seen how silence has destroyed nations and how courage has restored dignity. Burkina Faso did not arrive at this position by accident. We arrived here because history demanded clarity and conscience demanded courage. For too long, Africa has been asked to choose convenience over justice. For too long, African leaders have been pressured to look away when a people cry out for fairness. But tell me, my Biafrans, what is peace without justice? What is unity without truth? What is sovereignty if Africans are afraid to speak when one of their own is held as a symbol of fear rather than law? I listen to the voices of Biafrans not through foreign media filters, but through the raw testimony of a people who feel unheard. I listen to elders who remember the wounds of the past. I listen to youths who carry the burden of an uncertain future. I listen to mothers who ask why demanding dignity is treated as rebellion. And after listening, I ask myself a simple question. If Africa cannot speak for Biafrans, then who will? The detention of Nnamdi Kanu has become more than a legal issue. It has become a mirror reflecting how Africa treats calls for self-determination. The indigenous people of Biafra, the Biafran struggle, and the demand for self-rule are not inventions of today. They are responses to decades of unresolved grievances. Ignoring them does not erase them, it deepens them. Burkina Faso understands the language of resistance because we, too, have known what it means to be ignored. We understand that when institutions fail to address injustice, movements are born. We understand that when dialogue is replaced with force, resentment grows. That is why we chose to speak not to inflame, but to confront reality. Let me ask you a question that many leaders avoid. Why is Africa comfortable negotiating the release of soldiers, but uncomfortable discussing the release of a political detainee whose case has captured global attention? Why is security prioritized over justice? Why is stability defined as silence rather than fairness? Some will say this is interference. I say it is responsibility. Africa cannot continue to preach Pan-Africanism while selectively muting African voices. We cannot talk about African solutions to African problems while criminalizing African demands for identity and dignity. My Biafrans, brothers and sisters, Burkina Faso did not threaten, we did not insult, we did not posture. We simply stated a principle: cooperation must rest on justice. If dialogue is possible for detained soldiers, then dialogue must also be possible for a detained voice that represents millions of Biafrans. At the heart of this matter is a deeper question that the world avoids. Can an African people ask who they are without being labeled enemies of the state? Can Biafrans demand a conversation about their future without prisons becoming the response? If the answer is no, then Africa has a problem far bigger than borders. I know some are shocked that Burkina Faso would raise the name Nnamdi Kanu in diplomatic discussions. That shock reveals the problem. Why should justice be shocking? Why should asking for fairness cause discomfort? Why should speaking about Biafra trigger fear instead of dialogue? Ask yourselves this. If the detention of one man can silence millions, then what does that say about the strength of the system holding him? And if millions remain vocal despite that detention, what does that say about the power of their conviction? In the middle of these discussions, I asked another question that disturbed many rooms. What happens when suppressed voices begin to find allies? What happens when Africa starts listening to its own people instead of waiting for external permission? What happens when silence is no longer guaranteed? Burkina Faso is not naive. We understand the complexity of nations. We understand the sensitivity of borders. But we also understand that unresolved injustice is the most dangerous instability of all. Biafrans are not demanding chaos. They are demanding recognition, dialogue, and dignity. Let me be clear. This is not about choosing sides against Nigeria. This is about choosing principles for Africa. Strong nations are not afraid of conversations. Stable countries do not fear peaceful demands. True unity is not enforced. It is negotiated. My message to Biafrans is this. Your voices are being heard beyond your borders. Your discipline matters. Your unity matters. Your insistence on dignity matters. History does not move only through weapons. It moves through persistence, clarity, and moral pressure. Ask yourselves another uncomfortable question. Why do some fear a peaceful, organized Biafran consciousness more than armed conflict? Why is unity treated as a threat? Why does discipline unsettle those who benefit from disorder? Burkina Faso believes that Africa's future depends on how we handle moments like this. Today it is Biafra. Tomorrow it may be another people. If we normalize silence today, we inherit instability tomorrow. I did not come to power to repeat old habits. I came to challenge inherited silence. And in challenging that silence, we stated plainly that justice must be part of any serious cooperation. That is why the matter of Nnamdi Kanu was not ignored, delayed, or buried. Some will accuse us of controversy. Let them. Progress has always been controversial to those comfortable with injustice. Some will accuse us of ambition. Let them. Africa needs leaders ambitious enough to speak when silence is easier. My Biafran brothers and sisters, I do not ask you to abandon peace. I ask you to protect it with discipline. I do not ask you to abandon dialogue. I ask you to demand it persistently. Your struggle, when rooted in clarity and unity, becomes impossible to dismiss. History will ask difficult questions about this era. It will ask who spoke and who remained silent. It will ask who defended dignity and who traded it for convenience. It will ask whether Africa learned from its past or repeated it. If justice can be ignored, then Africa has learned nothing. But if justice is confronted even when uncomfortable, then Africa begins to heal. Burkina Faso has made its position clear, not with threats, but with principle, not with force, but with clarity. The voices of Biafrans are not invisible. The call for self-determination is not a crime. And peace, true peace, cannot exist where dignity is denied. Let the world hear this clearly. Africa's future depends on courage, not silence, on dialogue, not denial, on justice, not convenience. And to the Biafran people I say this, history listens longer than power. Remain disciplined, remain united, remain conscious of the weight your struggle carries, not just for Biafra, but for Africa itself.